Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the Evans Family Garden. My name is Tara, and I'm so happy you're here. Today we're going to talk about potting up your plants. So that's when your plant that if you started it from seed, or even if you got it from a nursery or a friend or whatever, your plant has now outgrown the pot that you have it in, and you need to put it in a larger size pot. Pot up your plant. So there's a few reasons that you would want to do this, and then I'll show you how to do it. Really, the main reason you want to do that is because your plant has outgrown the pot it's in. So you'll see that the roots have basically surrounded the interior walls of your pot. You kind of want to pot up your plants before that happens. If you've ever bought nursery plants or flowers or anything and you go to take them out and the roots have like spiral circled the outside of the pot, and so all you see are these white roots, and then there's like a tangle of them at the bottom, that means that your plant is kind of root bound, where they're root bound meaning like the roots got bound to the inside of the pot, they had nowhere else to go, and so they kind of just turned back in on each other, and it kind of stunts your plant. So if you get to that point, or if you purchase a plant that's gotten to that point, it may take a while before that plant, if it ever does, get bigger. Now it does. I have plants in my, flowers in my flower bed that I was able to do that. If you get plants like that, you kind of want to try and break the roots up as much as you can, loosen them up. Don't just take that block of roots and soil and put it in your ground. You want to loosen them up, kind of let the roots flow. You can kind of do, some plants will let you do wash off the roots and then replant it in some loose soil. But you want to do that so that the roots will start growing out and down versus continuing spiraling just in that little clump. I've done it a few times where I've broken up the roots and those plants do a lot better and they grow, and I've done it where I've left the roots in their little capsule, and at the end of the season that plant never really grew, and I take it out and I noticed that hardly any of the roots ever left that little clump that they started in. So it's really important for healthy roots to break up that soil or to pot them up in a bigger pot before they get to that stage. The roots hit the walls of whatever container they're in, and instead of being able to grow down, they just grow back in on themselves. Did I already say that? So that's the main reason you want to pot up your plants. Now, if you're able to put them in the ground, then of course instead of potting up, you would just want to transplant them right into your garden wherever they're going to go. A lot of places right now, however, just got more snow. Even though last week and the past couple days it's been beautiful weather and spring summer type weather, 70s, 80 degrees, it's been gorgeous. And then last night, from what I've heard, is a lot of places got snow. We don't ever get snow. It did drop pretty low last night, but not quite frost for us. We're here in Fresno, Central Valley of California, Zone 9B. So it is a little bit warmer here. So I've been able to put my plants out already. But a few weeks ago, about a month ago now, I believe, it did drop again, and I lost all of my cucumber plants. I had to start them all again. Even the ones that were in the greenhouse, I lost a ton of plants that were over there because it was just too cold. It really got my basil. It's fighting to come back right now. I'm actually really surprised that it's trying to push and make it back. But all my cucumbers gone. So I put a ton of more seeds in some pots, and they're just starting to pop up. So hopefully we'll get some cucumbers. But a lot of places, everyone started their plants hoping that their last frost date would have been a few weeks ago and they could start working the soil and put their plants in. And the weather decided otherwise, and so now you have all these plants that are big and beautiful and ready to go into the ground, and you have no ground to put them in. So you really want to pot up those plants if you have the bigger pots. If you don't, you could probably, take your plant out. You can put it right back in the pot, but take your plant out of its pot and look at the roots. If your roots are starting to do the spiral, or just like there's so many of them, you want to try and find a way to pot those up. So that's why I recommend potting up your plants, is so that you have healthier roots and a healthier plant. You're going to have a better jump start when they do finally get in the ground. You're going to have big, healthy plants that are going to be able to absorb all of that nutrients and the water, and your plant's going to grow bigger. So let's take a look at how to pot up your plants. Okay, hopefully you guys can see this okay. I'm going to try and show you as best as I can, explain it as best as I can. I want to show you tomatoes because they are a little bit special when it comes to potting them up in bigger pots. Most plants that you're going to pot up, you're going to take them in the pot that they're in, and wherever the plant is, wherever the soil level is, that's where you want the soil level to be in the bigger pot. So you would put the plant in the bigger pot and fill the soil level right up to where it's at now on the plant. Tomatoes are special because if you can see, well, that doesn't help. If you can see all the little glistening hairs that come off of the stem there, see all the white little hairs that come off? So each of those can actually form roots. So the way the tomato plant grows, like a wild tomato plant, is they grow and they grow and they grow and they end up falling sideways or leaning on the ground, and then anywhere that the stem touches can then form more roots into the soil, and so that has a stronger root system and create all of these roots and create like a massive bush of tomatoes. So if you ever don't stake up your tomatoes, don't use those tomato cages or anything, and kind of let it just free range in your garden, so to say, you'll find this tomato plant, all of the branches will fall, and you'll start seeing where it dips and touches the earth, the soil, and it will start rooting into the ground. So we want to take advantage of that when we're potting up these tomatoes. What we want to do to create a stronger plant and a deeper root system before it gets into the garden is I'm going to take off these little baby leaves. These are the first leaves, the first I forget the name of it, they start with a C. But when your seed first sprouts, these are the leaves that start collecting sunlight and bringing that in to get energy for the plant, and then the next set of leaves are the first true leaves. So these baby leaves, I'm gonna pinch them off, because what I want to do with this tomato plant, this is a sweetie tomato, so it's going to be a little red cherry tomato plant. What I want to do is I want to actually bury the stem, and I have two of them here. They're about the same, so I'll do one and then I'll show you the difference in how tall they are in the pot versus before and after, basically. So if these were a little bit taller and had another set of leaves, what I might actually do, and what you can do, is then also pinch off the next set of leaves. Although I believe the leaves have, oh, there's water dripping on me. I thought it was a bug. Sorry. The stems with the leaves, these little leaf stems, they also have those little hairs, so they will form roots as well, so you could bury those. I don't like to because I don't want to risk any kind of rot with the leaf part of it. So I usually just bury it up to that stem or that leaf. So let me show you. So I'll leave this guy so you can see how tall he is, and I'll pot up this little guy. So all I'm gonna use to pot up my tomatoes is the same potting soil because they're still in pots, so I want a potting soil. I just keep it all pretty damp. I don't want it super drenched with water, and I don't want it dry. So I'm gonna have the damp potting soil, and I'm gonna just put this guy in here. So I'll make a little hole in my new pot. Now, my pot is the same height. Ideally, you would want something a little bit taller, but I'm gonna be able to bury my tomato deep enough that it should be okay. Let me see. Take some of this out. So tomato plants, for the most part, are pretty tough. Resilient is a term I've heard a lot. This guy, since I potted him up last time, has gotten much better quality potting soil, so you're not going to see the roots sticking out the bottom because it has all of the nutrients in here. So look at these root systems. So we want these roots to grow more and throughout this whole block. So I'm going to put it in this wider pot. Let's see, I kind of want it all the way at the bottom. So I'm going to put him all the way at the bottom so that way I can fill up the soil. There's a bug. Fill up the soil all the way to this bottom first leaf. So what I was saying earlier, if I had waited longer and the root system was like everywhere around here, then I would want to kind of like break it up and loosen it up. But since the roots are still kind of going down, they're not doing that death spiral or spiral bound, root bound, I'm not going to worry about it as much because it'll have more room. So now there's way more room around the pot, so I'm just going to add the soil back in. I'm going to tap it down just a little bit, just to make sure it fills in all of those cracks so the roots have places to grow into. If there's air pockets in there, then it won't hold together very well and the root could dry out in there. So I do want to tap it down, and it's not quite full like I want it. So I'm going to add some more to get more soil up higher on the plant. So I now have soil almost to the top where that first stem of a leaf comes out. And so to compare, this is how tall it was, or similar, and that's how much stem I buried. So tomatoes are pretty much the only plant that I'm aware of that you can do this to create better root system. I believe peppers, within the first few weeks, you can do a little bit of the stem, but you can't go all the way up the stem of the peppers. They don't have all of those hairs, and it will cause rot. So I would really only recommend doing this on tomatoes. So we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna finish potting up these guys. I have another little red cherry. I have this is supposed to be like a dwarf cherry or a good container sized red cherry tomato. Actually, I don't know if it's red. It might be orange, but it is a cherry sized tomato, but its roots are already coming out the bottom, so I gotta get that guy potted up. And then this is a Japanese black trifle, I think. And I'm really excited for this one. I have one in my garden, but some buggies have been kind of picking at the leaves. So I'm gonna pop this guy up just in case my other one gets damaged too much, or I have a gopher I'm trying to battle, and so hopefully the gopher or the rabbits don't crush it or damage it. So I'm gonna save an extra just in case I need to replace it, but I'm gonna pot it up so that it can get a little bit bigger. So if I do need to replace mine, I have a stronger plant. So again, I'm gonna just pinch off these bottom leaves and just, you know, toss them. You can compost them if you want. And there are some little gnats on here, so I'm gonna just take those off. So we don't need any gnats on our tomatoes. Okay, so then I'll go ahead and get these guys potted up. Oh, look at the roots on this one. That's what I want to see. Nice, beautiful root system. So because my pots are the same depth, I am going to actually kind of break this guy up a little bit on the roots so that I can get it deeper in the pot. So I'm just gonna kind of loosely work the soil so the roots get loosened. That way I lose half of the height or half of the depth of the original soil, and I can put this guy deeper in the pot. Most plants are pretty good, and you can do this for a more established plant. There are some plants that are finicky, so just kind of just look up which plants are finicky. I know like root vegetables, so like carrots, beets, turnips, those kinds of things. You don't want to do this because this is literally the vegetable you're going to be eating, and so you don't want to really disturb them. They don't like that. Corn is another one that doesn't like to be messed with. Corn, peas, melons, they can do okay, but especially like watermelon that sends that taproot down, you don't want to really mess with the roots. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, that's better. So now he's shorter in this pot, so I have more space or more depth that I can actually cover up his stem better. So I just put those roots down, put this soil back in here for him. Tap it down, get all of the space out. Let me move this so you can see. And we'll just add some more on top. And get him filled up. And there he is. here are my 4 tomato plants. Here are the 4 tomato plants I just potted up. That was quick and simple. It took me, maybe 10-15 minutes with all of the explaining to do. So if you're doing a bunch of these, if you kind of pre-fill your pot, or I like to do this in like if you have a big tote bucket, or I do mine in my wheelbarrow, I dump all the soil in there and then kind of pre-fill or half fill my pots, and then just go on a roll, plug in some headphones, listen to some music, some books on tape, podcasts, whatever you like to do, and just go and pot up your plants. So I know, like I said, quite a few of you are still experiencing snow and winter type weather, so you can't go out and put your plants in the garden. So if you need to pot up your plants so that they have more space, so that they make it until you can get into your garden, then I hope this helped you kind of help you reassure you how easy it is, how simple it is, and just go ahead and try it. The worst that you can do, they're just plants, but tomatoes are pretty good, especially tomatoes are pretty resilient. They're going to keep growing. Most of your plants are just going to keep growing. They want to grow. They might go through a little bit of a shock, so just give them a few days. Make sure they have water. If you're bottom watering, I do recommend that. But give them a few days to get over the shock before you do anything else with them, and they should be good and continue growing. So good luck, you guys. Happy gardening this season, and I will see you next time. Bye!